Hello and welcome to Console Cowboys. So in today's video, I'm going to try to answer the question on whether this class is right for you. Based on my experiences and based on what you're looking for, you should be able to make a more informed decision because this class isn't for everybody and it's not really needed to do web penetration testing. It's a different kind of class. So let's get into it. So I completed this recently and went through all the modules, and I'm going to explain a little bit of how it works. So we got 15 modules, and if you start looking through this, they look pretty standard: injection attacks, NoSQL attacks, authentication mechanisms, etc., etc. And this first half, all the way up till you get to the intro to white box, is more of the penetration testing aspect or foundational stuff like HTTPS, TLS attacks, that sort of thing, and understanding what's going on, bypassing things like content security policy, and just really getting a deeper understanding of how everything functions as you're doing your penetration testing. And it's hitting more niche subjects. So if you have injection attacks, you have things like XPath injection, LDAP injection, stuff that you don't see as common in a lot of the penetration testing classes or in the wild. So you get a little bit more exposure, especially in these first few modules, to new subject matter that is an add-on to CBBH and will help you in your penetration testing. But as you go through these, you actually are going to have a lot more code. So up until you get to the second half, which is code review, you're going to see a lot more code as well. So if I click in here into one of these things, you'll see, okay, here's some code, and then here's some code associated with that code. And then somewhere down the line, you're going to see here's how to fix this code after you exploit it. So throughout all of the modules, it's going to slowly deep dive you a little more into looking at code on everything and make you really comfortable in understanding what's going on in the vulnerability in the code and then how to fix it. So that way you can explain to developers and understand when you're talking with developers what may be the issue, what may be a fix, even if you're not a developer. So that's really useful and a good add-on from CBBH, and probably would aid you in your penetration testing, or at least dealing with developers and understanding what's going on underneath. And then as you cruise down through here, you're going to see stuff like, you have your advanced XSS and CSFRS exploitation. Now, it sounds pretty standard, but it's not, because it's going to be a lot more of using these in advanced context of attacking internal networks by attacking people with cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, and a lot of the attacks are kind of contrived, where you probably aren't going to be able to enumerate SQL databases through XSS to an internal user and get them to click it enough times to do it. However, it's cool because it does show you the power of those vulnerabilities and gives you options and from a much more advanced outlook. So it is very cool, and it will give you a much deeper understanding of how things are, as well as you cruise down into like the HTTPS and TLS attacks. It starts getting into more of the encryption end of things and how those attacks, when you see, beast attack or the, I don't even remember the name of half of those, but all those TLS attacks, how they function, why they're a vulnerability, and then you're exploiting some of them. So you probably aren't going to do this in a penetration test. You might do like some kind of Oracle attack to get data, but a lot of the other stuff, probably not. However, it will give you a deeper understanding when you're talking with people and they're like, what is this beast attack, and, how does it, work, and why is it an issue? Because you flagged us on some, outdated ciphers, and at least you'll have a much deeper understanding to talk to it and not just say, oh, it's vulnerable because it's old. Right, so it's going to give you a deeper understanding, and also stuff with like the XSS and CSFRF. It's going to go into bypassing content security policy, bypassing like origin stuff. So give you a deeper understanding of why those protection mechanisms are important, and then how to bypass them and what contexts you can bypass them. So all of this stuff is good for more of a deeper understanding when you're talking with people or talking with developers, when you flag issues, and really actually being able to talk to it and not just exploit it. So that's really cool about the first half. Another cool thing about the first half is you're going to be writing a lot of code. It's generally going to be Python. So for example, you might have some SQL injection, you'll write some code, you'll get some results, you'll cruise down, you'll add some more code to it, and then later on, you'll start making it more efficient, so you have to make less calls to that and adding in different algorithms to help you. So you end up building out a lot of proof of concept code to exploit the things that you're doing, which is a lot of fun. And it's pretty cool and just a little more advanced, showing how to make proof of concept scripts to show how to attack these things, how to automate these things, and when you get into scenarios where maybe you can't just do it with a tool, right? Maybe SQL map is failing you, you need to do it custom, etc. So that's actually a lot of fun, and some of those modules with the code were my favorite. Again, you might not have to do this in a web penetration test. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But now let's talk about what happens once you get past the middle of this. So once you get past the middle of this outline, you're going to get to intro to white box pen testing. And everyone after this, for the most part, you're going to have downloadable code bases. And this is where it changes. This is stuff where it's more like bug hunting or more like research and development kind of thing, where you're going to get code base. You're going to set that code base up local server, and then you're going to hook up your Visual Studio Code to it, and you're going to debug the code live while it's on the server and while you're trying your exploits to see what's happening, what the variable values are, and be able to exploit things that you wouldn't be able to find necessarily black box, but you found during the code review. Because when you download the code, for example, at the end of a section, you're going to see something like download this intro to white box pen testing zip file that'll have all your code in it. You might go through a section and it'll say, hey, this is what the vulnerability is. Then you go through the code, find those vulnerabilities in there, and then on the server local, you're going to set up all the environments, and you're going to find the vulnerability in the code, exploit it, watch it while it's happened, debug, figure out what's going on, what are your errors, why is your exploit failing, and eventually come up with proof of concept exploits, after which you are going to figure out how to patch those so that way you can attack it again. So that's very, very different than CBBH, and a lot of you don't really need that. However, for me, I thought it was fantastic. It just gives you another deeper understanding and different methodologies to attack things when you actually have the code. So maybe you're looking at open source projects, you set these things up locally, and you're just like, hey, I want to vet this project before I unleash this thing within my company, or I set this up for like a server that I'm actually going to be running. And you can just go through there, set this up, live debug it, look for issues in the code, and then submit those to those companies to fix it. And that way you can vet your own stuff. And that's kind of a little different than just a penetration test. So now, is this for you? Is it not for you? So I would say if all you care about is web penetration testing, and you don't care about code, and you're not at the point yet where you really want to mess around with the devy side of it, probably not for you. You're probably okay with just CBBH. Get really good at black box testing. It'll get you really, really far. However, if you want a little bit deeper understanding of what's functioning, what's happening with the code underneath, how to fix those things, and how to interact with developers a little better, and how to, set up those environments and do some attacking on that, it is going to be for you. So it's really a different kind of class, and I would say it's really for somebody who wants a deeper understanding of things, not for someone who just wants to do web penetration testing. Now, I really enjoyed this class, and I would suggest it to anybody who really wants to go deep dive, but it's going to be a different kind of person. And like me personally, I'm not taking the certification or anything. I really just took this class for fun. Now, I will say if you are newer and you just finished your CBBH and you haven't been doing any web penetration testing yet, it probably isn't for you because it's going to get quite advanced. However, with that said, it does have very, very detailed walkthroughs where you can walk through all of the attacks, and you probably will get a lot of benefit out of that. It'll walk you through all of the code review, finding the issues, what the issues are, patching them, setting up the servers. So I think you will get a lot of value out of that if you were coming from a beginner end of things, but it's probably not necessarily for you. But I wouldn't let that scare you away. So if you just finished CBBH, you're looking for a job, our job markets are kind of screwed up, you can't find one, but you got a gold membership or a lot of cubes and you want to go through this, I say go for it, because you're going to learn a ton and it's going to help you ace those interviews a little bit better, as well as give you a lot deeper understanding, maybe even sets you on a path where you're going to start doing some more bug hunting and code review. I think this could even be really good for, say, the blockchain stuff that I do, right? Because a lot of times what we do is we get those code bases and we're running these things local, and then we're doing all the attacks local within, Visual Studio Code, within the frameworks and stuff. And it's a similar process. And also the code review will help you there. So I think there's a lot of merit and value to it, but I think it's definitely a certain type of person. So as far as how long it'll take to go through it, I got that question a lot too. It says 27 days, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if it says it up here still. Yeah, so it says 27 days. I would say probably not. I would give yourself at least 2 months if you are pretty well versed in web, you're not scared of code. 2 solid months, you could probably get through it if you're putting a lot of daily effort in. I would more suggest that you take more like 3, 4, 5 months, go through it a little bit slower and really just kind of make sure that you get everything. And that would be a more realistic expectation of the time, right? So I could fly through CBBH, I could do a module a day, and even if I was a beginner, I could probably get a large majority of it. However, this one, with all the code review, if you're new to that one, you're gonna wanna really just take your time with the code review and really try to figure it out yourself before you read the walkthroughs. And so download the code, and this is how I would suggest you do it, is you go to the module, go right to the bottom, download the code, take a look at the code, look through it, kind of try to understand everything that's going on before you even look at the section. Then read through the vulnerability and what's going on in that vulnerability. So it might explain the whole thing, why it happens, why it's bad, and then go through and try to find those on your own before you even go into the sections of the module that show you what's going on. Then hop in that module, walk through what they're doing step by step with the code, and do everything that they're doing. And then once you get to the end and you have to, do this yourself, actually do the code reviews before you look at the walkthroughs, get as far as you can, try to find what you think is the answer. And then even if you did get the right answer at the end, you plug it into the end and it says success. Then go through the walkthrough and follow their methodology, because you might get some good insights of different regexes to use to search the code, or different ways, the paths that they found. If you're looking at this correlates with this other part of the code, which allowed us to find this. And you might have found things a completely different way, which is totally fine. But now you can absorb a new methodology of how to go through that code. So that's how I would suggest you take the class. That's the durations, and that's kind of my thought process on this class and who it's for. I think its actual purpose is just more for that person who wants to understand things a little bit better, get their hands dirty with code, and just go beyond just web penetration testing. Now, if I was going to compare this to other classes, I'm not going to name names or anything, but I would say that this blows pretty much anything with the word advanced in it out of the water, because most of the advanced web classes are really just more content, whereas this actually does get advanced. And it actually is well done. It's actually well explained. So if I was to tell you, you got some entry-level web pen testing class, and then you've been working on the job and you feel really comfortable with web pen testing and you want to get advanced, this is probably the one for you if you want to deal with code, because most of the other classes are just a little bit of extra subject matter, whereas this one might cover the same subject, but you're going to be doing a lot of coding to automate things, and you're going to be reviewing a lot of code, and you're going to be doing debugging. So it's very, very different, and it covers a lot of different skill sets where you actually have to do a lot of things, not just do black box web test. So I know that's a long-winded answer, and I hope it was useful for you. So I'll catch you later, and I just want to make this video for all those people who are asking me those questions.